on checking everybody in the whole subdivision. I don't know. And Eureka, he lucks out.
Some serious footwork.
Yeah, it's a pair. It's a little Sherlock Holmes there. It turns out to be a pair of purple etnies. This is, I don't know if Jared said this or not, but this is what Tony in her diary said he said. Purple etnies. And I checked their website, and I don't see any purple shoes in their catalog.
Today.
Hi, sorry. I'm just saying. That's a pair of purple etnies.
Oh, they really do?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah.
Well, they're mostly black.
They are mostly black, but I remember those shoes. I remember them being cool at that time. So I guess it wouldn't really surprise me so much if, Jared, it was a small town and, he was like, oh, that guy's got cool shoes. What kind of shoes are those? They're purple, they're etnies. And then he saw us, for whatever reason. And this is not to say that Keenan was stalking around the house.
Yeah.
He could have taken a shortcut through the back and left a footprint, but he goes, oh, you know what, that guy, Keenan, he has those cool etnies. I should go see those to see if, oh, there he is right there. Is he wearing them now? Oh, yeah.
Well, and we don't know how old this kid is at this point.
He could be,
he
could be 10, he could be 16, I'm not really sure.
Let's just say he's a preteen, and he gets swept up in Tony's excitement. Kids do that. They're on the case. They're gonna fix it. They're gonna solve it, and they found the clue. I mean,
I will just also add that the soles of etnie shoes usually say etnie.
And then, the other thing though is that they were pretty popular at the time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And I'm not saying that that means that it was Keenan's shoes. I'm just saying it would not be insane to me to think that somebody had noticed that one guy has that cool pair of etnies and let's see if he's wearing them right now.
Yeah. Okay, that works. Except of course we still don't know that it was him because it could.
Oh, for sure. No.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah. Back to Tony and her claims. There's the missing driver's license, which you can totally picture a serial killer taking a driver's license as a souvenir.
Oh, souvenirs are a big thing. Yeah.
Oh, sure. But the police, on December 2nd, the day of, they searched Tony's car, which Morgan had been in the night before, and they found Morgan's driver's license in there.
Oh. And so she just left it in the car.
Yeah, MorganIngram.com still claims that the driver's license was taken. The date rape drug thing, they say on there that amitriptyline is a date rape drug in sufficient quantities, but it isn't. I have heard that if you mix it with alcohol, it can have an effect similar to Rohypnol, but Morgan didn't have any alcohol in her system.
Yeah.
And I tried to track some stuff down, and the
You're on a list now. We'll just say.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
No, I did the whole date rape drug thing, and I know I'm on a list too. I know.
What I'm getting at is I looked up this drug specifically trying to find some stuff, and there's not a lot. And it's inconclusive.
It is.
It's not as if it blatantly does this, and if you combine it with this, or this, you're gonna be knocked out and completely compliant to whoever is with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not it's not a clear-cut case at all.
But let's be fair, that's not necessarily information you want to post on the internet.
No, but
it's not a how-to guide on date rape.
But I hate to tell you this, the information I was reading was on a friggin' forum.
Yeah.
So the people who were responsible for trying to control that information cannot control a forum.
Yeah. And just as a warning to anybody who might take our information and run with it, if you combine drugs, you can actually kill somebody. So you might not just be guilty of rape, you'll be guilty of murder. So just don't do it, okay?
Exactly.
Does that sound fair? Okay.
Sounds like a good call.
Yeah.
So there's more stolen stuff, though.
Oh, yeah.
Besides the driver's license.
The stolen jewelry. Remember that? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So her jewelry was missing. But that was actually not reported to police until April 2012, months after Morgan had died.
4 months.
Yeah, 4 months. Keenan Van Ginkel got into a little trouble with the law. He sold several pieces of gold jewelry at one of those We Buy Gold places. I think it was called Gold for Cash. Mm-hmm. And he was
whichever one.
Yeah, he was arrested on suspicion of receiving stolen property. And it turns out he had on his person some marijuana and a pipe, which possession of either one of those was illegal.
Not anymore, but then it
Not
was.
in Colorado anymore.
That's got to be a bummer.
I know. He's looking at that right now.
2 years later, I'm still dealing with a rap for getting caught with pot, and now everybody's got it.
I know. The stolen property charges were dropped, but the pot charges stuck, of course. After Tony learned of this, she emailed Detective Glassmeyer and told him that Morgan's jewelry was missing. And it had been missing since the night of the murder. And she later revised this, and this is via email. She revised this to, well, some of the jewelry was gone, but they weren't sure which pieces had been taken. And Glassmeyer told her that they couldn't investigate the crime unless the Ingrams filed a police report on the stolen property. And he encouraged them to file a report on that. Well, the Ingrams never did. However, their website still claims that jewelry was stolen.
They had it really hard for him. Like, he was their only suspect.
Yeah.
And they were throwing everything they could at him.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the last viable known responsible party. We've got to put everything into getting justice.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a little misdirected, but I understand why they were going after him so hard.
I understand it too, but and I'll get into this a little bit later. But it's just totally is out of hand.
Oh,
I mean,
yes,
yeah,
I would
really
agree. It got pretty wild.
Yeah, it still is out there. I mean that website is still out there with all of its many accusations. Another reason to question Tony's integrity here, which is Brooke Harris. So
The girlfriend.
Yeah, Keenan's girlfriend. I keep wanting to say Keegan, and
I have done it myself.
I used to work with a guy named Keegan, and so it's like, and so I never worked with a guy named Keenan.
Got it. At least you didn't work with Keanu.
Yeah, Keanu.
You know, the kitten in the movie?
What do you mean at least you didn't?
Because if you worked in that movie, you would go to, with a kitten that looked like that, you'd go to stupid lengths to do whatever you had to for that cute kitten. What, you guys look at me like you haven't seen that movie?
Of course I've seen that movie.
Okay.
I have not seen that movie. What movie is that?
Keanu. We'll talk about
Joe,
it later.
let's keep going.
Okay.
Oh my God.
All right.
I don't want to get you sidetracked with cats.
Okay, that's a good point. So remember, for the first part of our saga, the only suspect in the Ingrams thing was Keenan.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. But then it turned out that Keenan had been out of state for 3 days in September and 7 days in November.
I think he was on a hunting trip at one point.
Yeah, I think they were both hunting trips.
Okay.
And of course, some of the incidents occurred during those time periods. And then also, when they checked his work records, well, he was on the job when a lot of these incidents occurred too. So that kind of would have, you'd think that would rule him out as a suspect. But then...
logically.
Yeah, Tony and Steve decided, well, that must mean that Brooke is in on the conspiracy too.
Okay.
Yeah, even though... And so they started accusing Brooke also of being in on this, and even though they had broken up, I think, by this time. And nonetheless, yeah, so it's crazy. But... and as far as the claim that the police did not investigate, there was a lot of follow-up by police. Long after Morgan's death, they did continue to pursue the possibility of maybe a murder. And certainly Tony was all over the sheriff's office, and there was tons of contact, and it's all in the reports, all the emails, all the phone conversations, pushing the idea that Keenan was a serial killer, and yada, yada, yada. In March 2012, Glassmeyer brought Keenan in for another interview. This time he lied to him. Glassmeyer lied. He said that some of the driveway video had been sent to an independent lab, and they'd enhanced it. Again, doing the enhancement BS, and they definitely showed Keenan being in Morgan's driveway. He also had a lab report from the same lab, which said the same thing essentially.
Totally doctored.
Yeah, totally doctored. He showed it to Keenan.
He probably made it in Word.
Yeah, he probably did. And the police report didn't change his story at all. It says, I have not been on their property, period. I don't care what that camera says. And I think he convinced Glassmeyer, actually. And Glassmeyer did ask him if he'd be willing to submit to a computer voice stress analyzer. Keenan said that he would. I don't know if that even exists. That might have been another made-up BS thing. But so Glassmeyer was actually on the case. As far as the Ingrams thinking that he didn't do any investigation, I mean, he took their chief suspect, who, by the way, there was not a shred of evidence against, and still sort of
ran through the process.
Yeah, he hammered on him a little bit to try to get him to confess, and he didn't do it. But nonetheless, the claim that the police didn't investigate is still on their website.
It doesn't hold water, but yeah.
And obviously the police did investigate. There's another thing that really raises my eyebrows, which is this. There was an incident, I think it took place on September 5th, and I mentioned it before. Tony was standing in the foyer of their house.
And somebody ran across.
He saw through the windows.
Yeah.
He turned and ran. He ran around the north side of the house. And her husband didn't see this person, even though he ran to the back of the house to try to see him through the sliding glass doors in the back of the house. Now, what's interesting about this is that it wasn't that long before this that they had installed a camera above the porch of the house, in the front of the house. And this guy was running across it. And this guy was not caught on film? That's kind of mysterious to me.
So talking
which makes me believe... Excuse me for interrupting.
No, I was interrupting my phone. Go.
But it makes me wonder, obviously Steve didn't see the guy. She could have totally made the entire thing up. I mean, I don't know, but certainly he should have been caught on the camera if he'd run across their driveway and around the side of the house, at least one camera. And that didn't happen, did it?
No, and here's the other thing is that you will see on the internet, I know Devin and I were chatting about this earlier, is the path.
Yeah.
So there's a berm behind the cul-de-sac that separates it from the property that's next door, which I think is a horse farm. And it's got some roads and pastures in it. And if you go northeast from the house, it'll take you to the intersection of County Road 100 and is it Interstate 82?
I think it is. I can't remember now off the top of my head. I'm too lazy to go look.
It's Highway 82.
Highway 82.
Highway 82. Okay, well, at that intersection of Highway 82 and County Road 100, there's a bus stop. And so there's a couple of things that make me think of what this supposed stalker path could be. It could be somebody who doesn't have a car who says, well, let's see, I can walk the 1.5 miles around going along the road.
Or I can cut across the field.
Or I can cut across the properties that are in this cul-de-sac and the field and cut my trip in half.
Sure.
Which is going to explain why if people are doing that, one or more people are doing that on a regular basis, that's going to wear a path.
Yeah.
I mean, never mind, it could be a game path because it could be game that animals that are setting off their motion detectors. But the other thing that I was wondering about, somebody walking their dog.
Yeah.
I mean, it's entirely... I mean, I've brought this up before. I've mentioned dog several times in this, but it's entirely possible that somebody on that cul-de-sac has a dog. The backyards aren't fenced in, so somebody could be walking along, and then they cut through the neighborhoods. They walk... You know what sucks about having a dog? Picking up poop.
Yeah.
You know what's awesome about a field? You don't have to pick up anything.
Sure.
So you cut through the berm, you walk your dog out there, the dog does its business, dog or dogs,
then you
walk back. And you let's say that it's rural enough that whoever's doing this is not walking their dog on a leash. Well, now they're walking their path every time. Their dogs are following them. Their dogs are running all over the property of the cul-de-sac, setting off motion detectors and cameras like mad.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I've just made these up because I was looking at it, but these are two very plausible reasons for the path and possibly for the motion detectors being triggered. Because motion detectors are not a straight beam. They throw a very wide arc.
Yeah.
My neighbor had one on his shed that in my yard I could wave and it would set it off. And it was pointed in his yard only. So, I mean, these things are not perfect. They're not fallible. Or infallible. Excuse me. Wrong term.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things.
Oh, no.
I just wonder.
There's all sorts of reasons. I mean, I know that people cut through and across other people's property all the time. It's just not that unusual.
Especially when it's kind of a ruralish area.
Yeah, I think so. So back to another reason to wonder about Tony's credibility here is I talked to Detective Glassmeyer, actually just this morning, and it was a pretty brief chat. He's left the sheriff's office. He's now Garfield County Coroner, and he wouldn't comment on the case because he thinks it would be inappropriate for him to do it since he's no longer with the sheriff's department.
Understandable.
But he did say an interesting thing, because I asked him, my first question was, did the stalking even happen? Because I said, I'm really doubting that it even did. And he said, yeah, there were a lot of people who doubt it. But other than that, that's all I got out of him. But, yeah.
Well, that's not an admission of anything from him.
No, it's not. He wouldn't tell me what his personal opinion was.
Which, as a professional, I totally respect.
Yeah, but I respect that too. But he did say that a lot of people do doubt it. And so I personally suspect that he probably kind of doubts it.
I don't want to put words in his mouth.
Nor do I.
No, nor do I. But I suspect that a lot of people doubt it. But there's one last thing about this that really kind of raises my eyebrows. And that is the security cameras.
Well, we talked about their
poor quality.
Their poor quality and their lack of findings.
Yeah, the fact that they never got a single frame of usable evidence out of any of those cameras, and they had a bunch of them out there, which really makes you wonder why they didn't upgrade to better quality cameras. In fact, to me, that's kind of unfathomable that they didn't do this. Why did they not upgrade to better cameras?
Aren't they expensive?
Sure.
They are, but so I have a family member who has security cameras around their house.
Yeah.
And got them based on the recommendation of somebody and doesn't totally understand what they're using. So may not understand, let's say that this family member, my family member is capturing things and can't figure out what the problem is, may not comprehend that the issue is not with whoever is running around that they're trying to capture being so good, but in fact, the quality of the camera.
Yeah. So why not get a better camera?
But it may not comprehend that is the problem, is the point that I'm making here, Joe. May not realize that the problem is you have a crap camera.
Yeah.
So they don't even think that I need to replace it with a better one because they just don't realize the problem.
But here's the deal. If you're concerned about the issue and you really want to know who your perp is, then you're going to be asking people. You'll be asking the cops. You'll be asking the people at the store you bought the camera from. You're going to be asking people, how do I get a good image of this thing?
I'm not disagreeing with you. Yes, if they wanted to go to just amazing length, they should have ringed the house in infrared cameras and night vision cameras and just recorded 24/7 and invested in some crazy setup, but they didn't do that. But I'm not gonna fault them because I personally don't know that they didn't realize where their issue in getting an image of this person was. They always said, this guy is so wily, he is so good at what he's doing that he is evading not only us, he's evading the police. Yeah, so again, I'm not gonna. That's why I'm not saying that that's something to hold to as strongly as you feel.
I still think, especially as far as the expense of the whole thing. I mean, these people lived in a large, nice, modern house. They drove a Land Rover, for Christ's sakes, not a cheap ride. And so I don't think money was that much of an object for them. And I really would have thought that if identifying the perp was that high on their priority list, I really think they would have gotten better equipment. They would have consulted somebody who could have guided them into how to get better images.
At this point, we're going into what if land, and I think we're almost sounding a little judgy. So I think we need to move from that.
It's true that. No, I'm just saying I find it a little puzzling.
Yeah,
we can leave it at that. So, you guys have any more thoughts on this mystery?
No.
Yeah. Anybody want to accuse?
No. I mean, I think it's just sad.
Yeah,
well,
it's very unfortunate.
It's totally sad, the whole situation.
Yeah, it is. And it's especially for the family, obviously, for Morgan, and also for Keenan, who obviously, I think very unfairly been accused.
I think that
of some pretty heinous crimes.
I'm still of the opinion that I think that something was building that was not recognized or diagnosed with Morgan, and that's what. Whether this was done intentional, whether it was an intentional or unintentional, I think that something was happening with her and she didn't know what was going on. I mean, that's just based on what I've seen in the behavior and the things. It's just an observation, but that's where I think.
Yeah, all right. But anyway, it's unfortunate, but hopefully everybody sooner or later will get their acts together and, people will live happily ever after. In the meantime, it's still crazy on the internet. So you guys probably want to know some interesting facts about us. Well, let me start from the top. We have a website. I don't know if you know this or not. We have a website. Can you believe it? Yeah. It's called ThinkingSidewaysPodcast.com.
We got a .com, not a .net.
Yeah, we're big time. So we also can be found on iTunes. And so if you find us there on iTunes, of course, subscribe, comment, leave us a rating. We like that, and especially a good rating. You can stream us from anywhere, and there's also Google Play, of course. And again, with those, subscribe, rate us, review us, and obviously the better the review, the better we like you.